tonight. Good friend of mine.
Can I get a chance, please?
Will do. Yeah, sir.
Appreciate it.
No, when posted on this.
If somebody's in here, I'm up to take it. You know, kind of thing. You think it is? No, I just got it. I want
Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention, please. My name is Don Tollefson. On behalf of the City All-Star Chapter of the Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame, it is again my pleasure to welcome you to what will be a tremendous celebration of sports in Philadelphia and some of the outstanding people within the sports world. We just have a couple of brief things to do before we eat, and we want to get through dinner as quickly as we can because we want to give all of our honorees their due opportunity to come up here and accept awards that in most cases they have worked many, many years and walked many, many miles to become eligible to receive. To get our evening started, the man who's the driving force behind the banquet and so many of the activities of the City All-Star Chapter of the Hall of Fame, our president. Having a nice round of applause for my friend, Mr. Milt Halstead. Milt?
First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming. I appreciate you supporting the function. Just to give you a brief rundown, the funds from tonight's dinner all go to the Scholarship Fund, which goes to the football players from the Philadelphia City High School All-Star Game, and also monies are contributed to the State Hall of Fame, to the building of the museum. Later on, Mr. Tom Holland will brief you a little bit on that. But other than that, I want to welcome everybody tonight. We have a raffle going on in the back of the corner with some goodies. All that money goes to the Scholarship Fund, along with everything else. There's also a few people I want to thank, and I'll do that later, but I want to get on with the evening's festivities. Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks very much, Milt. Our honorees have been assembled in the rear of the room in most instances so we could get some group and individual photos taken. But right now, if you would, and asking people to hold their applause till the end never works, let me bring to the head table our 2000 inductees for the City All-Star Chapter of the Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame. Larry Cardonic, Wayne Cunningham, Tom DeFelice, Harry Donahue, Lee Elia, Doug McCauley, Joan Moser, Mike Pettin, Al Paroli, Bob Polidor, Merrill Reese, John Schleiler, Dorothy Walton, and not at the head table, but in our audience to accept awards on behalf of their late husbands, Mrs. Larry Faust and Mrs. Ernie Gallagher. God bless you. We introduced, as our gang is making it up here, we introduced John a moment ago, Schleier, who's going to be one of our honorees, to lead us in the Pledge of the Allegiance to the flag of the United States, his son, Brad. Bradley? All please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You nailed it. Nice job, man. Please remain standing, and Jack Cross is going to come up and lead us in prayer with our invocation. Jack?
Father, who was supposed to be here tonight, well, I had to go on a special mission, so we're going to do the best we can. I want you all to bow your heads, please. Dear Lord, please bless this food which we are about to partake. Through Christ our Lord. Amen. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, Jack. Please be seated. Enjoy your dinner. Milt and I will be back with you right after the meal. Thanks.
More than I do.
Enjoyed last year up here. It was a good time, my friend.
Yo, hey, look at this man.
Thank you. For those of you who've been here in the past, it is an amazingly rich history of Philadelphia area sports that we celebrate each time we get together. Over the next hour, you will have an opportunity to hear many, many stories and many, many memories of the greatest days in Philadelphia sports, although many more are yet to come. And what I hope you're able to do, if not now, is take your program home with you and read the stories of the accomplishments of all of our honorees. And one of the common denominators you will see is not only greatness in athletic competition, but greatness in terms of community service and giving back to people in need. Our first honoree tonight is Larry Cardonic. Larry's a native of South Philadelphia. There are a few South Philadelphians here. His dream as a youngster was to play at Southern High, but his family moved and he ended up playing at Olney High. His accomplishments within public league high school football are well documented, but he went on to play great football and do great things at Temple University. He went into the Ontario Canadian Football League, where he was an all-league performer 3 times in 3 years. And in 1958, Larry made one of those crossroad decisions that many in the room have to make more than once. And he decided that he would go forward with a love that he had to work with special needs children. And for 40 years in South Jersey, he continued to work with special needs kids and make an incredible difference in their lives. Larry is very thankful to have an extremely supportive family that includes wife Charlotte, children Jennifer, Amy, and Daniel, his brother Sheldon, and his sister Ellen, who was inducted in the Hall of Fame just 6 years ago in 1994. Please give a well-deserved round of applause to our first honoree of the evening, Larry Cardonic.
Okay, thank you. I thank the committee here for making a magical, wonderful night. Get together with a lot of people I haven't seen for a long time. I go back to that 1945 game, West Catholic Southern, when legendary Anthony Reds Coletta threw that 50-yard pass to win that game in the last 21 seconds. And I said, I was 13, I said, this game is for me. And I went home, and my poor 5-year-old brother, it's too bad for him, I practiced tackling him for the next 2 years. And then I wound up going to Olney High School, and they were choosing the team one day, and I was waiting for the answer whether you're going to play JV or, or be on the varsity. And I think that was the greatest moment of my career when Coach Neiman is here tonight and Coach Mueller. And when they said, Kodanik, you stay, I guess that was about the happiest moment I could have. And I ran home and I told my mother, and my mother said, I never wrote it or signed anything for you to play football. I said, oh, yes, you did, Mom. Well, I haven't forged her name since the first grade anyway, but I did a good job on this one. Yeah. And then one night, we had a night game at Olney High School in Germantown. I was playing Olney, and I happened to be defensive captain that night, and I gave the defensive signals. It was very complicated. This was a 5-man line, and then if I confused you, I might have put 6-man line. So we didn't go in a huddle, remember. We stood at the line of scrimmage and showed it. And we won the game, and I'm coming off the field, and there's my dad with a perplexed look on his face. I said, hi, Dad, what's the matter? We won the game. He says, are you all right? I said, what do you mean? We won the game, and it was great. He says, you were holding your chest the whole game. Then I wound up at Temple, first game against Penn State. Lined up, and I see these two guys. So I said, I'd like to introduce ourselves to each other. What is your name? He says, my name is Jesse Arnell, and this is Rosie Greer. What a long day that was. And I got up to Canada, and we played one team 6 times and 3 times in the playoff. That's 9 games with one team. That means your fullback ran the ball 200 times. You try tackling Cookie Gilchrist 200 times, and you'll find out what football's all about. Thanks again. Nice to see you all. Wonderful night.
We're going to pull the first 2 tickets for the autographed ball and the helmet. And we're going to have Mr. Kodanik do it now.
My wife.
Gets quiet in a hurry. Here we go. These are the blue tickets. We've all been in banquets with multiple colored tickets. These are the blue tickets. You get your Eagles helmet or your Kurt Warner football. First person gets his or her choice. 145, 1262. 145, 1262, and we'll have 60 seconds to get to table 2. Where are you? We're going to watch this. We got a clock on you. Does anybody have that ticket? 145, 1262. We do have a winner. All right. Take your time. Get up to the table there. And our second winner that was just drawn, 145, 1095. 1095. So your winners are 1262, 1095. Head over to table 2 and get your prizes.
Good. He's the guy that broke your wrist.
Is that the one who did?
This right, he's the guy that broke your wrist.
The guy who just won?
Broke your thumb. He's the one who dislocated your thumb.
We will pay him back
Right
to
there.
that.
No, broke your thumb. He's the guy that did it.
We will continue to draw raffle tickets throughout the rest of the program, but it is now my distinct pleasure to move on to our second honoree tonight, Wayne Cunningham. Wayne is a guy who went to Abington High School, went to Duke University, went into the military service of this, the greatest nation on earth, and then if you read thoroughly through the resume, has a distinguished career record of service to young people. And it is just amazing, and this is a common denominator not just for so many of our honorees, but for so many of the other people in the room, previous honorees, and just people from the sports world in general. When they give a little to kids, they give a lot to kids. And during his distinguished career, he's been involved in coaching soccer. He's been involved in coaching softball, which he continues to do these days at William Tennant High School in Bucks County. He's been involved in wrestling. He's been involved at the collegiate level and the high school level, but most importantly, Wayne Cunningham has been involved in a way, like so many of our honorees, of giving back to youngsters who can benefit from student athletics. He lives in Willow Grove with his wife Virginia and his 4 children and 9 grandkids, and he's currently teaching health and wellness at Montgomery County Community College. Our next honoree, Wayne Cunningham. Wayne.
Bill.
Thank you very much, Don. Fellow inductees and honored guests, I'd like to thank the members of the Philadelphia chapter of the Sports Hall of Fame for inducting me, nominating me, and electing me. It's a real honor to be included with the likes of these people up here, tremendous coaches, athletes, broadcasters, the gamut. I've been involved in sports all throughout my life. I'd like to thank some of those who made this possible. Whether you're a professional or amateur in the sports field, I'm sure most of us up here would say that we owe a great deal to the dedicated coaches who taught us the many sports that we got involved with when we were young. Their enthusiasm and hard work gave us something for a lifetime. The word sports is in Pennsylvania's Sports Hall of Fame is part of the word sportsmanship, a key ingredient of sports activities. As a player, coach, and official, I have valued these above all, and have tried to impart these to all with whom I've come in contact in each endeavor. I'd like to thank Dick Grote. While I attended Duke University, he showed me that I need not pursue a baseball career because I too was a shortstop. Not quite in his class. Special thanks to my assistant coaches who throughout the years gave of themselves, did much of the hard work associated with coaching, and didn't always get the credit. My present coaches are all here, and I want to thank them, Mike Pohl and Bernie Cranley and Aaron Bittman, who are working with me up at William Tennant. Know that you're appreciated, fellas. I'm very happy to see 3 of my players here tonight. I was really surprised to see them here. My girls softball players, and I want to thank them and their families for coming. Last but not least, I'd like to thank my family. My wife Ginny, my children for bearing with me all these years. My mother's here. Appreciate her coming tonight. The children were dragged to many games, a lot of softball games. They saw more softball games than most people. They had no choice when they were small. Their choice that when they got older, they chose not to come sometimes, but that was okay. They're all very supportive, and I appreciate it. Thank you once again for making this a special night for me.
One of these two. This or this.
All right.
We're going to do it after Tommy D.
Oh, we can do it right now. We'll do it right now. Thank you, Wayne. We got one. We'll do one, and we'll do the football. You want to do 2? Oh.
You take one.
We just organized this during the cocktail hour. I'm serious. Here we go. All right. All right. They get the first person gets their choice.
Yeah. 2 tickets to any home game. 2
tickets to any Eagles regular season home game. All right, and that goes to 145-1191. 145-1191. We have a winner. Excellent. 145-1191 gets the Eagles regular season tickets. Leo's signing for it. If you're going in September, it's got to be the Giants game. 3 out of 4 in the row, but we'll get you hooked up. Here we go. The Bengals game on Christmas Eve will be available as well. 145. I know my friends at CBS realize that. 145-1308. 145-1308 for the autographed ball. All right, we have another winner. Come on, get your ball. 145-1308.
That's a 7-second delay there.
And as we continue to draw tickets, we appreciate all of you who bought them because, again, you're helping the scholarship programs of the chapter. Our next honoree is a guy that I personally, as with a couple of our honorees, have the pleasure of saying I go way back with. Tommy DeFelice is one of the good guys, and I know I use that phrase a lot on and off the air, but he truly is. He was a legendary schoolboy athlete as one of the Burrs at West Catholic. He was a legendary collegiate athlete at Temple University. But again, most importantly, once his playing days were over, he gave back again and again and again to youngsters. And there are not hundreds, but thousands of young people in our city who are beneficiaries of what Tom has done. Tom has long been associated with Bach, but he's also an associated person when you come to talking about Temple football, Temple athletics, West Catholic athletics, and something that is near and dear to my heart because just today we were in Kensington at Dean Allegheny in the Elkin School. We opened up a new PAL, Department of Recreation, combined facility there in the Edison cluster. And Tommy's work with kids in the Department of Recreation has added to the thousands he has helped. Before I bring him up here to accept his award, he has a whole table of guys who, like himself, were involved in one of the worst charity basketball games I've ever seen or participated in. And we played at Bartram High, raised money for a young man who was fighting some illnesses, and had a great evening during which his teammates brutally mugged me under the basket and I dislocated a thumb, appearing on the air that night in a cast. Now, Tommy, I'm going to have to leave tonight before our news, but hopefully there's no hospital stop on the way. But I'll do the news either way because I did it that night. But he's been involved in the community officially and unofficially for a long time. He is a great official. He knows when and when not to blow the whistle. My friend, our most recent inductee of the Hall of Fame, a legend in South Philly in this city, Tommy DeFelice. Tommy?
Put this here. Thank you. Thank you very much. Whoa. I just hope everybody paid by check because Vince Trombetta was at that head table as you came in. Anybody gave cash, you better see Milt Hellstead fast for a receipt. I'll tell you that right now. You know, I'm a product of the 60s, that rebellious generation, and when you're 5'6" and 150 pounds, you need a lot of help and a lot of guidance. And for me, that was West Catholic. And West Catholic is here tonight. My friends are here, the West Catholic grads. My family is all West Catholic grads. And for West Catholic, you know, you are the heart and soul of my life, okay? And you offered so many alternatives to the problems that we had, but they were good problems. Now, I really believe that most students enter school with an equal dose of potential. What's the difference is the opportunities. And West Catholic, you presented and gave to us all those opportunities. Everybody's here today, my friends. Thank you very much. Brother Richard and all the followers here, West Catholic. How about a hand for them, please? You know, in the 60s, the White House had the Kennedys, the Beatles had the Music World, but we had the McEnanys, right? Now, this shouldn't be part of my 3 minutes either.
Yeah, it should.
No, it shouldn't, because they're in the Hall of Fame. I'm going to do some other people Hall of Fame, so this shouldn't be part of my 3 minutes.
They used up that 2 years ago.
John and Vince McEnany, they've been coaching since the 50s. Now think about that. That's 5, maybe 6 decades. I know John's going to continue to coach. But John and Vince McEnany, for all their accolades and everything they've accomplished, you know, you lifted our spirits. You gave us more than you ever could give, you know, to all our friends here tonight. And you had discipline and punishment, both of you. You gave that to us. And I'm telling you, that really is needed in today's society. Please, John and Vince McEnany, both in the Hall of Fame. Thank you, Vince. James Cagney, Vince McEnany, boy. He's the only guy who can dive in the ocean and come back up. Hair's perfect. The only guy can do that. I'm a Temple graduate. I'm very proud of that. You know, all of my buddies were St. Joe's, LaSalle, Villanova. And they always say, what are you going to Temple for? I said, I went to Temple and I had a great time. Gavin White, Al Schreier, Aaron Vittman, his wife Doris, right? Aggie, I appreciate everything you've done for me. Thank you very much to the Temple people. You know, most of us are always looking for happiness. And most of the time that happiness is right beside you. And for me, that's my wife. Come on, Grace. She said she was going to go to the bathroom when I talked about it. It's my wife, Grace. Stand up, Grace. Come on. You know, I'm involved in 3 sports, so when I would come home and try to talk to her about off tackle or a missed call or whatever done, she would just look at me and say, and go watch QVC. And I would go in the kitchen and just talk to myself. There's nobody else to talk to, because all the kids are gone. But I have 3 wonderful children. My youngest, the twinkle in my eye, my daughter Natalie. She's going to graduate Westchester. Stand up, Natalie. That a girl, Nat. Thank God, Natalie, that Vince Trombetta and John McEnany graduated long ago. They were Westchester grads. Thank you very much. My son Greg moved to Atlanta. He's the smartest one here. He's with my buddy Sonny. Sonny and Greg, come on, stand up. My boy, come on, Sonny. Right. And my oldest son, Christopher. I know 3 minutes is going on. Don't get on me. He's pulling my leg over here. My son Chris, he's a teacher in Philadelphia Public Schools like myself. He also coaches at Bartram. My son Chris. He's on a full scholarship. Everybody says he's 27, now he's on a full scholarship. He lives at home. Free room, board, tuition, right? We're on a first name basis too. Hey Tom, hey Chris, how you doing? No problem. Hey Grace, how are you? No problem. What's for dinner? All right, sit down, don't worry about it. When there's no milk. Hey Dad, there's no milk. Oh Tom, there's no milk. Okay. Wow. Am I all right? He's looking at me, he's getting nervous over here, right? You know, experience is a hard teacher because experience will test you first and then instructs later. I'm the second son. So that means anything that was done wrong in our house was done to my older brother. Carmen, where are you, Carmen? Stand up, Carmen. Now, Carmen has a couple of names. He has a couple of names. When we can't find him, he's Richard Kimball. When we need help, physically or others, we call him Spartacus, and some of his friends. I'm Spartacus. They are, see, they're followers. I'm Spartacus, right? And then also, I call him Rudy, because he's going to try for that XFL, I know that. He's 55. They still play touch football on Sundays. My brother Carmen and my other assistant in football, Vince Trombetta. They play touch football. They got the eyeshadow, dance theory. They put the tape around the spikes from 1960. I went over and played one time 3 years ago. I'm in the huddle. I thought he was going to be the quarterback. Vince Trombetta is the quarterback. Tom, you go deep. Deep? He can't throw the ball to the end of the table. He wanted me to go deep. One game, that was it. John McNamara, you were there. You're laughing back there, John. You and I left. But one time we were gone. Hey, I have a great school at Bach. Bach is now called the Technology School of the Future. We're no longer a vocational school. And that's because of our principal, Al Sirketti, vice principal, Mr. and Mrs. Fury, right? Please stand up. They're great people. Bach has great programs now. We're on the map now, Bach. Now also at Bach, we have some great athletes. Chicky Chimeno. We have the White Shadow, who's in every Hall of Fame in the state of Pennsylvania. Ernie Beck. Stand up, Ernie. The great. Come on, Ernie. You can stand up. Right. And my mentor for years, is Charlie still awake? And my mentor for years, Charlie Guida, wake up. Come on, Charlie. This is a true story. I'll tell true stories. My first introduction to Bach football in the playoffs. We're preparing for the playoffs, and the Eagles were on strike in the 80s, right?
Absolutely.
The Eagles were on strike in the 80s. Now, Bach's field is at 10th and Bigler. True story, Margie Wiesner. We're down there practicing. So as practice ends, okay, some of the kids are saying, hey, Randall Cunningham's over there in the main field having a catch with Mike Quick. Yeah. So the kids come in, Charles, get changed. The kids get changed, right? We give them their token. South Philly, they get tokens and hoagies to come to Bach. They didn't know that there. We give them the token to go home. So the kids are leaving. About 10 minutes later, true story, one of the kids comes in. Yes, what do you want? Mr. Dean, somebody's at the door. I go open the door, right? There's Randall Cunningham standing there with Mike Quick. 6'4", brawny, looking tough. Hey, Randall, how you doing? Hey, how you doing, Coach? Hey, Mike, how you doing? Boy, you guys are working out. I said, what can I do for you? You want to come in? No. I said, well, what's the matter? He goes, I think your guy stole our football. What? I turned to two guys to the left. I said, get the broad in Oregon and get that football, right? 5 minutes later, the door opens up, NFL football comes rolling in. Know the moral of the story is, the next year they built that bubble. You know the inside thing where they practice? That ain't come over to our field anymore. True story. But in all honesty, I want to thank everybody for coming. It's been a great night for myself. But I really believe, Franny Doherty from North Catholic, Jim Murray, Joe Ciroli, and all my friends, those who are involved in athletics, and everybody here is involved either directly or indirectly with athletics. We need you, gang, because athletics is probably the last bit of glue that's holding the society together. We need you all. Thanks for your support. Have a good night.
Draw one of these for me, brother.
Yeah.
Just one. One? Yeah, there's one. Nice job, brother.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, my friend. No. Due to Mr. DeFelice's remarks, the rest of the dinner has been suspended. It'll be resumed in 3 weeks, but that was incredible. It was well done. It was the first time an Italian in this city at a banquet that I've done accepted thanking as many people as he did without one cousin. Were there any cousins? There were some cousins here, I guarantee you.
They didn't pay me.
Who's that guy you're with? It's my cousin. Yeah, okay. Got a lot of cousins, man. All right, hopefully your cousin wins. 145-1276. 1276. 145-1276 wins an Eagles nice pennant. Wow, cool. 1276, we have a winner. $145-1276.
Probably mine.
Oh, excellent. It's a head table winner. Bobby, right here.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next honoree is a dear friend as well as a colleague of mine. Harry Donahue is a unique talent in this city. And I know those of us in the Eagles organization and the Phillies organization who are here tonight, those of us who travel a lot going around the country, when you're covering sports, you also get a chance to listen to people do the news on television and radio. And you get to hear and see the people who really, really not only understand what it is they're talking about, but understand the community that they're delivering the news to. Harry Donahue is one of the most gifted broadcasters I've ever had the pleasure of listening to and working with. And far more importantly, he is one of the most dedicated broadcasters I've ever been around in terms of realizing that what we do on television and radio really has an impact, really can make a difference, and if you make an effort to roll up your sleeves and become a part of the community that you broadcast to, it's amazing how many more good news stories you can contribute to and report upon. What a lot of people who listen to Harry, as I do faithfully on 1060, as so many of you do, what a lot of people who listen to him faithfully on news radio fail to realize, he's one of the best damn sports play-by-play announcers I've ever heard. And having heard him for a number of years doing Temple football, having been around him when we did some games together for the USFL Philadelphia Stars, this is a guy who has the kind of a passion for the game, much like Merrill Reese has, that you have to be the best possible play-by-play announcer. He's a St. Joe's grad. He and his wife Linda, who's here, have 3 wonderful, wonderful children, and the extended family is here to help me in honoring our next Hall of Fame inductee, the great Harry Donahue. Harry?
We're going to do 2. One more. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Tolly. Those days in the USFL, a long time ago.
Good times.
Tommy, I was getting a little nervous. I have to get up at 2:45 every morning. I don't know if I was going to catch any Z's tonight or not, but are you related to Cozy Morley at all?
Cozy's going to be yelling.
When I got the call that I'd be inducted into the Pennsylvania Hall of Fame, I had to sit back and think, well, I never hit a home run, I never scored a touchdown, and never made a field goal in basketball. I thought the one thing probably I've done more than anybody in this room tonight is close more schools than anybody, right? The thing that I guess I recall in terms of people that have helped me over the course of my career, 50 years ago, I contracted polio. This is before Dr. Salk and his vaccine, obviously. And for about a year, I had to wear a brace on my right leg that actually weighed more than I did. Within a couple of years, I was running around, more like limping around. And the thing that I remember by the man that fostered my keen interest in sports, who was my dad, was that he never said, "You can't do that." And I would go out for baseball or basketball and play some football, CYO league, and I knew I couldn't run as fast and jump as high as everybody else. But the guy at home never said, you shouldn't do that. And I guess there's a lesson there for a lot of parents in terms of encouragement for what their kids want to do. And I'll never forget what my father did for me. And at the time, I never realized it. Someone else who helped my career, actually, probably I would have gotten to the Hall of Fame sooner if he had given me some some quotes like he did later in his career. I remember when I first took my first job out of college was in Montgomery newspapers. And the editor at the time said, I want you to do a story on the Pendel League. He said, this team, Jenkintown Steel, best team in the league. They have a few guys who used to play in the majors. So I made an appointment with the manager at the time, and we met up at Ablethorpe Park. And I sat down and talked to him for about an hour. The guy's name is Lee Elliott, and he was selling insurance at the time. And we talked. I did a story on Lee. And he went on, of course, to go back into organized baseball. And a few years after that, all of a sudden he's the center of a national controversy over some remarks he made about the fans at Wrigley Field. Pretty colorful stuff. In fact, it a little pissed me off, Lee, because if he could give me quotes like that, my career would have had a jump start. Somebody else that really helped me out a lot, and I think a lesson in terms of an employer having trust in an employee. When the USFL started in 1983, Miles Tannenbaum and the USFL Stars wanted to hire Bill Campbell to be their play-by-play guy. But Soupy, as we call him, had a contractual obligation with another station and couldn't do it. So I talked to Miles, and he was a faithful listener of KYW. And I said, Miles, I'd love to do your games. He said, well, have you ever done it before? I said, no. He said, well, how can I hire you? I said, Miles, let me tell you, the one thing I don't want to do ever in my career is embarrass myself. And the other thing I don't want to do is embarrass anybody that hires me. I can do the job for you if you just trust me. And he said, you know what? He said, I'll give you a chance. So Miles Tannenbaum started me on that career. And I will ever be in his gratitude for what he did for me. And someone else who started my career actually in radio, I actually studied for a couple of years for the priesthood. And Joe Grady, who I'm sure many people here remember from his days with Grady and Hertz, was my teacher at the seminary in speech and communications. And when I was leaving the seminary to go to St. Joe's and finish my college education, I went up to Joe and told him I'd be interested in getting into broadcasting. And he said, why don't you stay in the priesthood? So I talked him out of that, and he gave me a job. I was sort of like a boy Friday. One of the things I had to do every morning was get Bob Menifee and Robin Roberts coffee, donuts, and a newspaper. Robbie was doing sports with Menifee on WPEN. And literally, you could sit there and read the Inquirer sports page and read along with Robin Roberts at your home what he was saying over WPEN. And the final guy who I've always come to admire is John Chaney. John, of course, a close friend from my association with Temple. And the coach always has that expression, be the dream. Don't just dream, be the dream. And I've had the chance to live a lot of my dreams and make them reality. And the other thing John always says, when they asked him how he wants to be remembered, is just like plain old pound cake without the icing. And that's pretty much the way I look at it too. A job is basically, for me, a position. It's not a means to an end. It's just another factor in my life. And John Chaney, I think, has been a great teacher on and off the court. The X's and O's of life are more important to him than just scoring a field goal. But tonight I think I do have a little bit of icing here, and I think Chaney would appreciate that, and me saying that. But I think I'm just going to sit down now and have some more pound cake and have a few more dreams and let life go on. But I appreciate everybody that has helped me through my career, the people that I mentioned and some that I didn't. And one other person I want to thank is my wife. Saturday we're going to celebrate our 28th wedding anniversary. Linda, this is a hell of an anniversary party, isn't it? Where is she? Congratulations. To my extended family, to all my friends that are here from North Hills Country Club and from the Glenside Pub, Joe, Colin, and the boys, thank you for your support. And to everybody here who is being inducted tonight with me, congratulations as well. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
There you go, Harry.
Thank you.
Harry alluded to our next honoree, my friend as well, Lee Elliott. And those of you who've been around Philadelphia a while know whether it was in the Pendel League or at Alney, whether the sport was baseball, which he excelled in, football, which he excelled in, basketball, which he excelled in. This guy was one of the all-time great athletes ever to grow up in Philadelphia. He proved that not only by the way he was able to play in the show, as they call it, Major League Baseball, but the way he was able to become a successful coach and a manager and a baseball guy. And the one story I want to tell about my friend Lee Ely, and I remember so fondly our year together in 1980 with that amazing team, and I think of all the times paths crossed during a long baseball season. But the one thing I want to mention, and Harry brought it to mind in talking about influences. So many times when you go to spring training, you make the early trip. In the Phillies' case, you go to Clearwater. When you work for Toronto, you go to Dunedin, all the different cities in Florida and Arizona. And as the sun rises on a Florida or an Arizona morning, especially at the beginning of camp, there are well over 150 people. And there are guys who are major league stars and guys who are ticketed by virtue of being on the 40-man roster for a chance at the 25-man opening day roster. And there are guys who maybe you're a year or two away, the Pat Burrells, who go back to AAA knowing they'll be back very, very quickly in the major leagues. But my respect for Lee Ely runs very, very deep, and it runs deep for one reason. I've seen him treat all the players in camp the same. And I've seen you treat the kid who was ticketed not only for double or single A initially, but perhaps double A at best in his career. And you treated those kids with dignity and respect and helpfulness and try to make them achieve whatever God-given potential they have. And for anyone in sports, whether you're working with junior high, high school, college, or professional players, to make that kid believe, as Harry said his dad did, is one of the greatest gifts any person can have. And Lee Ely did that and continues to do that for hundreds and hundreds of kids who play professional baseball in this country. Our next honoree, my friend and a great Philadelphian, always a Philly in our mind, Lee Ely.
Glasses. Well, when I was flying in this morning from Toronto, I had no idea what direction this affair was going to take tonight. But I do want to thank the people on the committee that thought enough to honor me with this selection. It is very special to me. I haven't had too many of these things, but this one is very special, being a Philly guy. And congratulations to all the gentlemen and ladies here tonight. They also were inducted. You know, I came in here tonight and I've seen so many guys that I grew up with and looked at and respected, from coaches to players, and I look at them and I think to myself, where has it gone? I still look at you guys and I admire you. Jimmy and Perry and Neil and Larry. You were all very special to me as a kid growing up. And I got to thinking, you know, if my mom and dad were here today, they'd be extremely proud, because Dad came from the old country, and I think somewhere in Mom and Dad's genes there was something that made us kind of sort of athletic. And the reason I say that is because the only person in my family that's close to me that is still alive is my sister Diane, and she's here tonight over there. And the thing that I think is so unique, that is my nephew, her son, represented our native country in the Olympics in Barcelona, and that's Frankie Leskis, and I think, Frankie, you ought to be recognized today also. But you know, I was thinking coming in today, and you guys all know me, most of you people in this room, and I think, Coach, you can relate to this too. I got to thinking about, you know, you're talking about the Pennsylvania Hall of Fame. And as a little boy growing up at Cook Junior High School and Logan Demonstration and the Pendel League and what was the other one there, Laudenschlager Post, American Legion Baseball, and 18th and Belfield and all those things. And I got to thinking, what was the common denominator that made most of us guys pretty good ball players? Maybe not stars, but good enough to satisfy that dream, Harry. And I think it was when you think about playing step ball, half ball, chink, right? Wire ball at night, right? You know, when the ball went up, you had to be pretty good to figure out where it was going to come down, because it was nighttime. You know, box ball on the corners. You know, I mean, these are things that street guys were familiar with. The comic that made all the money from Temple,
Bill Cosby.
Cosby. His first tape was about old Weird Harold going in the sewers to get the balls out, you know, and that's what I relate to. And if I say something to a ball player with the Blue Jays or the Seattle Mariners in the past, they really can't equate to that. So I think in some ways being a Philly guy and growing up in that era was very special. And I know it's been special to most of us people here that have been an athlete and in sports our whole life, because that was a special time of our life. Outside of parents and friends and what have you, I think there's always one ingredient that's something that gets you over the hump. That one thing that you kind of lean on this person a little bit, and you kind of, when things are going rough, he's there for you. When they're going good, he'll listen to you say I, me all night long. And I've had a lot of friends like that, but I don't think there's too many guys that can say they've been blessed with a friend for 50 years. I met this guy when he was 12 years old. He's been a big part of my life. He's been a friend, a brother. He's been a confidant. He's been everything for me. That's not to say that there's not a ton of you guys out there that have been the same way for me, but this guy was unique. And I think for all the good things that have happened to me here tonight and in my life, I think there's one common denominator, and that's my good friend, former athletic director and head football coach at Germantown Academy, Jack Turner. And I thank you, Jack. I've been a blessed guy. I've been a part of the Phillies. Whoever dreamed a kid from Broad Girard would be in a World Series, playing 3 postseason ball games, managed 2 Major League ball clubs, be in an all-star game as a coach, and have the privilege of knowing all of you fine people out there in my lifetime. I thank you very, very much.
Slide over. There we go. Thank you. One more. Great.
They could draw one, two. Draw 2.
All right.
Congratulations, my friend. Our next raffle winners who can report down to Bob Clark for the Maxwell here. 145-1300. 145-1300. 145-1326. 145-1326, 145-1300. Our next honoree, the first of 2 of our honorees who unfortunately have to be inducted posthumously tonight, is Larry Faust. And Larry Faust was a guy who was a Mr. Basketball type Philadelphian for a long, long time. And Lee was talking about the rich texture of Philadelphia sports. And yet it is a sport like basketball which so embodies the streets of Philadelphia. And I will long remember, I was so tickled and flattered, as all you are this year, to have been inducted myself last year. And one of the things I'll always cherish among many memories is to look out in the room and see the aforementioned John Chaney sitting with the late Harry Lidwell. They were both here together last year. And we lost Harry. And we've got to treasure the people we have while we have them. And then when you look back on a person's career and you say, maybe I should have said thanks more, you don't always get that opportunity. Larry Faust was a great, great high school basketball player at Southeast Catholic, the forerunner of St. John Newman now. He went on to LaSalle when not only LaSalle was a national power, but the NIT was the tournament of choice. And he helped them win the NIT, not just the NCAA. Then he went into the NBA and played for 3 teams that, at least in the cities they played in, no longer exist. The great Minneapolis Lakers, who revolutionized the game with George Mikan as a big man. Played for Fort Wayne and St. Louis as well. But before I have his widow Joan come up here to accept his award posthumously, it speaks to the kind of a team person that Larry Faust was, that as I was walking into Dugan's tonight, one of his former teammates wanted me to mention that this was an ultimate team player who made the people around him better on the court, but more importantly, off the court. And tonight we are privileged that the following teammates of Larry's are in attendance. Freddie Bernhardt, the 1948 captain of LaSalle's first ever NIT team. Where are you, Fred? I know you're out here somewhere. Please stand so we can acknowledge you. There you are over in the corner, Fred. Joe Hank Greenberg, the 1949 captain and 3-year teammate of Larry. Thank you so much for coming, Joe. And Bill Inky Gallagher, 4-year teammate and part of LaSalle's first 2 NIT teams, 48 and 50. And regards come as well from afar from Charlie McGlone, Larry's coach for 3 years. He's in Texas presently, but he's often repeated one remark about Larry Faust. He won an awful lot of games for us, but from all the people who knew him, who have told me the stories, he made an awful lot of friends for the people he was around. To present the award, Milt Halstead. To accept the award posthumously, Joan Faust. Joan? Spuds.
Thank you very much. Larry would be so proud and happy to be here tonight. He would regale you with all his stories. He had a million of them. I'm afraid I'm a poor substitute, but I wanted to come up and thank you all on behalf of my family. Thank you very much.
You know, in sports, we're just talking about teamwork, and as we get ready to present the next award to the late, great Ernie Gallagher and a number of other awards, in particular to 2 people I know well, Mike Patton and Merrill Reese and the rest of our honorees, I'm going to need a pinch hitter. The great thing about the 10 o'clock news is you get done an hour earlier. The downside is you got to get back an hour sooner. So I'm going to head out. I'm going to turn the program over to a colleague of mine at Fox Television during our coverage of the Eagles. Does a great job working on the Eagles both as a print and a broadcast reporter. Before I bring Dave Spadaro up here to resume the presentations with one to the widow of the late Ernie Gallagher, I just want to say thanks on behalf of all of us who cover sports to those of you who are in the trenches of sports. And I applaud, as I do each year, our friends at the Daily News, Ted Solari and Billy Fleischman and Mike Rathett and Zach Stahlberg, the editor, for their support of high school sports. But I think every person in this room should realize more than ever when they leave here tonight that sports for kids can make the difference between success and failure. And sports, as was mentioned by a couple of people, is the last remaining glue, as Tommy DeFelice said, that does more to advance racial and ethnic harmony than anything else we have in our society, and God knows we need that. Thank you all. I got to get to work, but God bless you, and congratulations to the rest of you one and all. Thank you all. Dave Spud Spadaro now is going to be my, I'm going to pitch it out for you.
Thank you, Tolly, and thanks everyone for having me here. I'm very honored to be here. I know it's very difficult to pinch hit, but as Lee Elliott knows, it's one of the toughest jobs in the business. I feel like Ollie Brown up here, so I'm going to take some swings at the plate. I don't have the personal experience as Tolly does with many of the inductees tonight, so most of what I'll say will come off the program. The next honoree is Ernest Ernie Gallagher. He was born in 1935, passed away in 1978. He was born and attended St. Boniface Grade School and North Catholic High School. Baseball was his first love. He played back in Old Connie Mack Stadium, or rather Connie Mack Baseball Conference. Did everything from selling hot dogs to being the bat boy. He played football and baseball for the Special Forces of the Army in Hawaii. He will be remembered by the people who know him very well and for what he did in Philadelphia sports. His son Tim will be accepting for Mr. Gallagher, so Tim, come on up, please. And everyone, welcome Tim.
Good evening to everyone in the room tonight. This is a very, very difficult time with me up here, so just please bear with me for what I prepared. It is with great pleasure that I accept this award on behalf of my father, Ernie. I share this honor with my family, my mother, Ginny, my sister, Missy, my brother, Ernie, my uncles, Joe, Jack, and Jerry, Uncle Jimmy, and also Aunt June. My mother, Ginny, and Uncle Joe are deceased. Some of the special moments in my dad's career included being the bat boy for the Philadelphia A's and working with County Mac. He was a catcher on the North Catholic baseball team and played for 2 seasons. After graduating from North Catholic in 1954, he enrolled in the United States Army. He played baseball for the Special Forces in Hawaii and also played football. It was in 1960 when he returned from the service that he found the real love of his life, and that was my mother, Ginny. A strange thing happened to him in 1965 playing in the Pendel League. He broke his arm while breaking up a double play. He was out of work and somebody suggested he go umpire. Well, he took that person serious, and nobody could believe that my father became an umpire because the people in this room that know him knew he hated umpires. In 1966, he enrolled in Al Summers Umpire School and graduated 5th in a class of 100 pupils. He was selected to work the Florida State League his first year, and after 2 seasons was in AA baseball in the Texas League. He went as far as to reach AAA, and some of his many friends that were in baseball were John McSherry, Harry Windelstead, Terry Cooney, just to name a few. While working in the Texas League, a few things happened to him that were quite interesting. Well, one evening he received a call from Eddie Gottlieb Sr., and Eddie Gottlieb offered him the job to become the Harlem Globetrotters referee. My father had such a deep love for the game of baseball that he turned it down. During that same season, the Seattle Mariners called and asked my father to be the clubhouse man. The only reason we didn't go is my mom said it always rained in Seattle. After leaving baseball at the end of the 1973 season, he began working in the Huddle Bar. For anybody out there that knows anything about the Huddle Bar, I cannot say too much because there's women in attendance tonight. But it was not unusual to find many dignitaries, celebrities, and ball players hanging at the bar having a good time. One thing anybody knows, the Huddle Bar was famous for sports. Also, the Huddle Bar stayed open 24/7, just like 7-Eleven. But you can't tell the police that. He not only was a baseball official, he also officiated football for Arco. He was an IBO basketball referee and continued to play baseball for the Hot Stovers. I have a lot of fond memories, but this one sticks in my mind. I don't know how many 11-year-olds could honestly say they had the honor and the privilege to be the bat boy for Duke Snyder, Johnny Padres, and Ted Williams all in the same season. The only other 11-year-old I know that did that was my father during the 1949 and 50 season. He also loved kids' sports. He donated his time to Summer Boys Club and would play wiffle ball and basketball in the middle of Rosalie Street, and the neighbors would yell at him just like they yell at the kids. He loved family outings, whether it was a summer at Fisher's Pool, Uncle Jimmy's house down in Virginia Beach, or just hanging out the Jersey Shore. Family and fun always came first. In closing, one of the nicest things I can ever have somebody say to me is, "Hey, aren't you Ernie's son?" And when that starts, the stories just keep going on and on and on. And I know many in this room right now tonight could tell a lot of Ernie stories. So when everybody's done accepting the rewards, you can meet me right in the back room, right back there. We can have a drink and tell some of those stories. Also, we'll be at the wrong pub. I would like to personally thank this gentleman right here, Mr. Milt Halstead. Thank you, Milt. Okay. And the Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame. It's not often that somebody's been deceased for as long as my father, and somebody takes the time to honor his memory. Also, I'd like to congratulate everyone in this room because the people in this organization are very, very special. Thank you very much.
Our next inductee was a three-sport athlete at Northeast High School. Later went on to Tulsa University where he played football. And I noticed in the notes here that an injury before his senior season ended his dream of being a Dallas Cowboy. So I think it's fair to say that his life took a turn for the better when he couldn't play for the Cowboys. In 1972, he started teaching at Dobbins. He taught and coached there. The swimming team won 3 public league championships. He developed the first girls track team and coached them successfully for 20 years. And then in 1993, Doug McCauley became the head football coach at Dobbins. And this past year, he was honored as the Philadelphia Coaches Association Coach of the Year. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Doug McCauley.
Gotta wake up. Thank you. Thanks, sir. Here you go.
Cowboys aren't all that bad. I'm just looking out over the room and enjoying it because I have so many friends here this evening, and I'd just like to thank the nominating committee for the selection. I'm thrilled. I'll cherish this as long as I live. I'm an emotional guy, just like Tommy DeFelice and some of the other coaches in this city. You got to be. There's a lot of guys that can draw X's and O's, you know, in all the plays, but anybody that really coaches knows that it's emotion that wins games. And this is an emotional moment for me tonight. And I'd like to thank, again, the committee and congratulate all of the inductees this evening, many of whom are close friends. Some I've met this evening for the first time, but we all have something in common. That's the sporting tradition. Coaches I'm used to speaking to, parents, administrators on a daily basis. Rarely do I get to get my family together, and I'd like to just take a moment to thank some of the family that's here tonight. They probably could use a good stretch anyway. But we have several teachers, faculty, and staff, some of my coaching colleagues from Dobbins Randolph down there at this end of the table. Thank you for all coming tonight. I have my family here, some friends from out of town, my wife, my children, and I'll get to them in a few minutes. I was at my daughter's lacrosse game. She happens to be a senior in college and quite a little athlete, honor student, probably make a pretty good coach someday. And in the summertime, she said, "Dad, I need a slogan for our team, you know, something to put on a t-shirt." And I kind of like that. And I happen to live up in the Central Bucks area, and I come over and scout around Central Bucks West and pick Mike Pettin's brain quite often, and he's a master of it, of motivation. And I saw the t-shirt, said, "Lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way." I said, "Boy, that's, you know, a good little slogan." And for many years I've been trying to lead people around. Some follow, some do. And I think some of the best things I can do is get the hell out of the way most of the time at home. I know that's the fact. I'd like to introduce some of my friends here this evening. Fellow teammate who's a member of the Illinois Hall of Fame, wrestling and football coach from Glenbard West, Chicago. His friend Joanne Rakosi, golf coach from Chicago. They flew in this morning. Stand up, please. Come on, get up, Vern. That's the guy that saved my life back here in 1969 when he refused to leave the hospital after that injury and got the doctors back in there. Without that, I'd probably be up here without one leg. I have my children here this evening. I'm very proud of them. They're athletic, all the family. My oldest son, Doug, is from Maryland. He coaches at Catonsville High School, teaches physics. doesn't know how to spell physical education, but so he had to get in that laboratory. My other son's he's a graduate of Widener University. My middle son is Eric McCauley. He's a graduate of College of Charleston. He's relocated here. He's in the internet business. I don't know. He keeps talking about stock options. I don't even understand what they are. Eric is, if you need to get hooked up with the internet stuff, he's the guy. And my lovely daughter is senior at East Stroudsburg, Megan McCauley, quite the athlete. Now, I'd like to say I spent a lot of time with them, but, coaching, it was high and by many times, but I did manage to get to watch them play for a considerable part of their childhood. But, behind every coach there's that one special person, and it's the wife, and I better not forget her. It's the first time she's been able to come to a fair like this. I led her to Oklahoma. She followed me, and then after that, I just got the hell out of the way. And Wendy, my wife of 30 years. Thank you. I think all the coaches in the room can relate to that type of commitment that you need on the home front, and they were able to do it. I was listening to Tommy DeFelice ramble on, and we're partners when we get to the coaches' banquet. And I knew it would be a long night, but I'm not the speaker. Matter of fact, I can't even tell a joke, but I try to relate some coaching points. I think I can coach a little bit, and the McEnays gave me advice for years, and Trombetta, and Ron Cohen, Jeb Lynch has always been to my ear, and there's different coaches around the room that I have contact with. They always want a couple of secrets. I'm not real good X and O, but what I'm known for is being able to evaluate talent and put them in the proper position, and that's worked fairly well for us. And tonight I'd like to share that with you, Tom, because I know down at Box sometimes you've had problems with Vince. Everybody goes to defense, but I think the easiest way, and one of the problems is you don't have any trees in South Philadelphia. See, at Northeast High School, Charlie Martin was my coach, and one day he had a bus, and I said, "Coach, where are we going?" He said, "Don't matter, we're going to practice." I said, "Well, we practice right out behind the field there, a nice grassy area, and the lines and all." He said, "No, we're going to Pennypack Park." I said, "Pennypack Park?" I thought he was going a little bit off his rocker there. So we loaded on the bus, about 60 kids. It's about the third day of practice. He says, "Okay." He says, "We took us down to Pine Road, got off the bus." He says, "Now you see that hill there where all the trees are?" He says, "I want you to run 10 striders, full speed up that hill and back down." I said, "What does that have to do with football?" Now I know. See, the ones that run around the trees, they're running backs. And the ones like myself who ran into the trees, we became the linemen. So hopefully you can use that. Thank you very much, everybody. It's a great honor. Thank you very much.
I don't know. Just tell me what we see possible.
Okay. Raffle time again. Get out your raffles and see Bob Clark for your winnings. The first number, 145-1152. 1152. The second number, 145-1001. 1001. Do we have a winner?
Just wait for a minute.
I should wait for you. Huh? Wait till somebody gets a win. Don't be bashful.
Shake that box.
The numbers again, 1001 and 1152. Okay, there's one. Okay.
Listen, bring up Tom Horn, the president. He's got to get out of here. He just wants us just for 3 minutes. He's the president for the whole state. Tom
Pennsylvania State Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Before we introduce and induct our next honoree tonight, I'd like to introduce to you, we'd like to say a couple words to all of you and thank you for coming out. Tom Harmon, the president of the Pennsylvania State Hall of Fame.
On behalf of the 7,000 members comprising 28 chapters statewide, and we're all over the place. We're in Erie, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Scranton, Harrisburg, and all places in between. I thank you for inviting me to this great occasion. And I want to thank Milt Halstead for this banquet and putting on a great show. The several times I've been around Milt, and if you get him involved, and he's so busy with a lot of other things, once he's involved, he takes charge and puts on a magnificent performance, and he's done that tonight. By the way, not only is he the president of the chapter, the All-Star chapter, but he's a state vice president. Also here tonight is Lou Capiella, our senior vice president from the Southeast region. Carmen Libertor's over here, another vice president. And John Furlow is here as president of the Delaware County chapter, and I appreciate that they're here to support this, this chapter. I was here at the first banquet, and when this chapter came on board, I was excited because it's always great to have another Philadelphia chapter to capture the Philadelphia spirit. And I asked them about their first banquet, and they told me that they were going to induct 11 people, and that worried me. And it worries me, and I told them, I told the officers this, are you sure you want to do 11 people? I know you're anxious to go, and I know you want to get first-class people and a lot of them in the first year, but after a while, you're going to dilute the talent. And you're going to be sitting around a banquet 8 years from now not having any talented people. Well, we're 8 years from then, and you have a great talent up here. Nothing's been watered down, and things are great and well in the City All-Stars chapter. And it's a pleasure to be around this kind of talent. I'm the state president in charge of these 28 chapters, and I haven't been to a banquet since like early November, and I sit back in my office wondering what goes on, whether the state's in good shape, whether the communities are being served, whether worthy inductees are being honored and inducted, and I'm glad to be here tonight because they certainly are. The chapter is taking care of this community. The last thing I want to say is that, and as I was thinking back, when I first got started about 24 years ago, I got started because a team that I was involved got a special honor in the Central chapter, which is in Lebanon County in Hershey. That night there was a very special speaker. There were a number of teams and a number of individuals that got honored. Most of them were high school kids. I was not a high school kid. But most of them were high school kids, and they had a special speaker that night who just energized the kids and quite frankly enthralled them. And those kids, those high school kids in Lebanon County, were sitting on the edge of their seats taking this all in because there was a very dynamic speaker there that night that captured their hearts and their enthusiasm, and he was Don Tollefson. That's the first night I'd ever met him. And I was not involved with this organization until a month after that, after I was helped by the chapter, and I was amazed that these grown men in these communities would take time freely and voluntarily, give of themselves to honor people, and to have the sense to invite someone like Don Tollefson to give some heartwarming message to the kids. And as a result of that totality of experience, I got involved. And after 24 years, it's every time I appear before one of these things, it's just terrific to be around outstanding people. So again, Milt, thanks for inviting me. It's been a real pleasure.
Our next inductee has a very long and distinguished career, both as an athlete and as a coach. She's a graduate of Cheltenham High School and Ursinus College. While in high school, was a fantastic athlete, was a great athlete in college in field hockey, basketball, softball, and lacrosse. Represented the United States field hockey team in 1966 through 1979. Her list of accomplishments is lengthy. It's wonderful. What really caught my eye was that at North Penn, the last 23 years, she coached hockey. She won 138 games in basketball over 10 years, and in softball in 27 years won 19 league championships, 3 Pennsylvania state championships, and came in second 2 times. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Joan Moser.
I'd like to start by congratulating the other honorees up here tonight. It is certainly an honor for me to be included in this group. Also would like to thank the selection committee for their consideration for my selection here into this chapter of the Pennsylvania Hall of Fame for sports. Sports has been a big part of my life, both as a player and a coach over the years. I feel I've been real fortunate to be around during a tremendous period of growth in women's sports. Back in the 50s, when I was a schoolgirl, I used to sneak out of my house at night to go over to the local schoolyard to run and do sprints and exercise, because it wasn't fashionable back then for a girl to be exercising. Now that stigma's gone, and there are year-round high-tech programs available for women to participate and to train. When I started coaching back in the 60s, I did hockey, basketball, softball at my high school, and each season we'd have 8, 9, maybe 10 games at most. So at the end of the school year, I approached my principal and I said, can we add some more games to our schedules so that the girls can play more and have more fun? And with complete conviction, he looked at me and said, well, that would mean playing more than 1 game a week, and the girls couldn't possibly handle the emotional and physical stress of that. So today, our women and girls of all ages have great opportunities in sports, and the sports programs of today command great excitement and respect. And I think the Final Four women's basketball tournament here this past weekend in Philadelphia is a great example of that. Years ago, when we had a big game, maybe it was an international hockey game or a playoff softball game, we would have a handful of parents, a bunch of friends, and maybe a dog on the sideline for spectators. Last year, our women's soccer team played in front of hundreds of thousands of fans across the United States. And I know I've been just a tiny part of this transformation of women's sports in the United States, but knowing where we were 4 or 5 decades ago allows me to better appreciate tonight's award and to receive it for all my wonderful coaches and teammates and friends that I have had over the years that have made my journey so much fun. Thank you very much.
Our next inductee is a man who I've read a lot about, who I've always wanted to meet. In my job, I work a lot with professional football coaches, and I see how hard it is to win football games and the emotional toll that coaching takes on them from game to game, from week to week, from season to season. Mike Pettin at Central Bucks West High School established a new standard for winning. He retired after the 1999 season on top as the state champion. In 33 seasons, his career record was 326 wins, which is just amazing, 42 losses and 4 ties. 16 times his teams were undefeated. So he has certainly established a legacy at Central Bucks West High School and across the country as a high school football coach. Prior to that, Mike Pettin graduated from Conshohocken High School, excelled in 3 sports, football, basketball, and baseball, and it is indeed a pleasure of mine and an honor to introduce Mike Pettin.
like to thank Milt and the committee for sharing with the other recipients this great honor. And since retirement, I've had a lot of time to reflect on what has got me here, really. And I was born and raised in Conshohocken. Now, you can say what you want about Conshohocken, but it's a great sports town. Now, unlike South Philly, the Italians were in a minority, though. And it was pretty tough. I don't know what my grandfather did. He moved into a neighborhood where, we were the only Italians. I remember being so proud one time coming home telling my mom the kids liked me. They gave me a nickname. What was that? Well, they called me Wop. And, I was pretty thrilled at the time until she explained the situation. But, Conshohocken had a pro football team before, pro football became that popular. Thanksgiving football, St. Matthew's, Conshohocken. It was like a holy war. The town had 9,000, 13 to 15,000 showed up at the game. The whole phenomenon gave rise to a burglary ring. They were called the Turkey Bandits because everybody was at the game and these guys knew, hey, the homes were easy picking. But I was very fortunate. In the neighborhood there were always games, like Lee said. You got wire ball, all kinds of crazy games. Out of bounds was usually a block wall when we played football. So getting roughed up, you learn not to go home crying. You didn't get much sympathy. Now, my dad was pretty tough on me. Very humble man, was a great athlete, had to quit school. But he supported me, and I knew I could always get out of jobs saying, Dad, I'm just going to go out and play ball. Come home late for dinner. If I said I was in a game, no problem. But people said, he was a perfectionist, and maybe some of that rubbed off. As good as I ever played, he always had a critique that was pretty lengthy. And I remember I was a basketball player, and I thought I played a heck of a game. And he was hard-pressed to figure out what to say I did wrong, and he criticized me for the way I was standing in timeouts. One time I came home and blamed my teammates. I had played poorly. I was airborne over the front porch into the picker bushes. I never criticized a teammate again in my life. God forbid I said anything bad about coaches. Now, besides thanking my father, my mother, and she had no clue about sports. A good Italian mother, do the right thing, do your homework. At Villanova, I'd come home and she'd ask me, are you doing your homework? Her biggest concern was I couldn't get into Catholic school. A devout Catholic to this day, 6 o'clock Mass. The Polish had their school, the Irish had the school, and the Italians, I don't know what the problem was, they didn't have a school. But she went, she told the priest, she cleaned the altar, she joined the parish, and if we accept the quota, your kid may get in. But the problem, the quota for Italians was 0. So I ended up at the public school, and it was amazing when I started to do well. My dad got a lot of calls about, being a good Catholic. He should have his son over there at the St. Matthew's. And I remember when they built the diocesan high school, Archbishop Kennedy. She came home from Mass. She was all concerned. She said, the priest said that all the Italian parents have a moral obligation to get all their kids over there now in the Catholic education. Talking about that it's going to be sinful. I said, Mom, you're going to have to go to confession because I'm not leaving my friends now after 8 or 9 years in public school. But it was the best thing that really happened to me. I had great teachers and coaches. People say I give the kids, I'm only giving back what they did for me. Now, they have what was called the hands-on policy. Today you got the hands-off, there, not touch a kid. My head dented many a block wall at Conshohocken. The coaches, the one guy's size 12s, I felt him many a time. My one coach probably got me a scholarship. I remember he called Frank Reagan when another school kind of let me down. And I can remember the phone call. He said, Coach, his parents really want him to have a Catholic education. Now, at that point, I had absolutely nothing. But he practically begged Coach Reagan to get me over there. Unfortunately, it worked out. And it was a blessing in disguise. I had a great education and an experience at Villanova. Now, if you know the history of Villanova, head coaches were like revolving doors there. And
We had 3 years of losing, and then 1 year we went to the Sun Bowl, so I saw both sides. Now, I was having a pretty good career, and between my junior and senior year, I got married, and something happened to my football career after that. The coaches said I lacked energy. Supposedly now going over they have the Pettin rule, where if you're on scholarship and you get married, they take the scholarship away from you. But seriously, I was injured, and talk about people we have to give thanks to. My lovely wife Joyce, married for 38 years, has always stood by me, supported me. The only time she disagreed with me is when I coached my son, and she had to take sides, and of course she took sides with Junior. But as I look back, I'm very fortunate to have the people that have influenced me. Once I was injured, I knew I wanted to be a teacher coach. I was lucky. I got a job in a little Catholic school. My mom was so proud, making up for it now. St. Pius X in Pottstown. And I owe a lot to Jim Mick. He had an interesting story. He graduates from East Stroudsburg, goes down and talks to the good father about a job he thought was an assistant coach. And after he gets the job, he says, well, I'd like to meet the head coach. And the father said, you're the head coach. So, he had 1 year on the job, and then I come in, so we were two rookies. But he was a great man and a great influence. He never gave me the wrong scoop, except one time. When I was leaving to go to a public school, he says, you're crazy. I'm going to Reading Central Catholic next year. You're going to be the next coach here. And I said, well, what the Catholics pay here, I had to get my family and get down there to Central Bucks. Now, if you know the story of Jim Mick, he stayed at St. Pius for the following 25 years, and they named a stadium after him. So obviously, I made the right move. Now, my wife never heard of Central Bucks. She was in shock. Fortunately, it worked out. It was a great community. People ask me, why didn't you go on to coach college football? I couldn't have been in a better environment. It's a great place to raise my kids. We've had a lot of success. All the coaches will tell you here in football. You have to have excellent players, parents that are supportive, great assistant coaches, and of course a wife that is going to tolerate a coach who's going to be preoccupied with football. So I'm extremely grateful to all these people that have given me the foundation to hopefully be a success. And in closing, once again, I'd like to thank the committee. It's a super honor, and it's something I will cherish. Thank you.
Now here's some music to your ears. The last two raffles are going out. Final two numbers, 145 1151, 1151, and 1125. 1151 and 1125. Please come on up to the front here and grab your prize. 1125 and 1151. Now I'm told there's more than that, so it's not music to your ears. I don't know Al Paroli. I've never met him. I'm not from the city. I didn't grow up in Philadelphia. But I'm reading through his bio here, and he sounds like a very special man because he played sports for the love of sports, and he touched a lot of lives along the way. And having played high school sports, knowing how important those influences are, I can only imagine how many people are indebted to Al Paroli. So please, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Al Paroli.
I can't get up here and tell you about how great I was in college or how great I was even in high school. The only thing I can tell you is I want to thank everybody that voted for me to put me here. And I want to thank all you people for coming here to listen to us and to be part of this evening. This is one of the happiest days of my life.
to receive an award like this. I had a wife, like they said here, that was dedicated to the game of football. My wife would go to 3 football games a week, the freshman game, the JV game, and a varsity game. Here's a woman that really likes sports. She raised 5 kids. I say she did, because I was a policeman, and I was hardly ever home. I was either a policeman or I was coaching football. So my wife took care of everything, and I want to thank her. Today, I can say that my one son, I had 2 sons and 3 daughters, and my oldest son is now a football coach at Archbishop Wood with my son-in-law, and my grandson also goes to Archbishop Wood. And the weird thing about this, ladies and gentlemen, is this year I was coaching up at Bishop Egan, and we had to play Wood, and I told all the kids on the football team at Egan that if my grandson gets hurt, you're cut. And the game ended up in a tie, 8-8. But I just want to thank everybody for being here. And I want everybody to remember one thing. There was a lot of things said here about the thing of coaching. But the most important thing in coaching is you're coaching kids today that are going to be leaders tomorrow. And the way you instill things in their heads and how you guide them is how they're going to go out into the world. Today, every time I see anybody, like I got in that book there, that everybody I see today that I've coached, they don't call me Al. They either call me Coach or Mr. Paroli. And I'm thankful for that. I think that I did the right thing with all of them, and I'll do it as long as I can. I'm still coaching today, and you can see how old I am by the book. And I'll still hang in there until I can't go anymore. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here, and thank you.
I'm a rookie at this, so I apologize. We've got a ton more raffles. I want to rapid fire 6 of them, so get your tickets out. The following 6 numbers are winners: 1164, 1121, 1353, 1171, 1200, and 1075. One more time. 1353, 1121, 1164, 1075, 1171, and 1200. Our next inductee arrived in Philadelphia from Dallas, Texas in 1925. He attended both Central and Ben Franklin High School, and then later was awarded a scholarship to Temple University. He was a walk-on football player there and made it to the first string. In 1942, he joined the Marines, and that took him to a lengthy career in the military that included serving in the Pacific Theater in World War II. When he returned from World War II, he played at Villanova as a football player and also ran track and played baseball there. He was drafted by the Chicago Cards in 1949, finished his football career with the Washington Clippers, a farm team with the Redskins and the Eagles, and then later taught and coached at Lincoln High School in football and basketball. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bob Polidor.
Like everyone else, I'd like to thank the group that selected me for this honor. I'd like to express my thanks to my family, 2 tables worth down there, for their support during my sports career that goes back to the early 1930s, where we started playing football at 9th and Johnson, coached by a neighbor who volunteered his time named Steve Branca. God bless him wherever he is. Albert Magley, also a volunteer manager of the South Philadelphia White House, who, by the way, were scouted by Jocko Collins and Ira Thomas many times. And many of those ball players went to play in the Eastern Shore League. From there, I had the good fortune to play for many excellent football coaches. Bob Zallis, who coached both Central High School and Ben Franklin at the same time, because Ben Franklin didn't have a coach, being a new school in the city. and Bob Dallas had to choose between Central or Ben Franklin. He chose Central, and we wound up with a coach named Jim O'Brien, and later Charlie Williams, who became principal of Lincoln High School many years later. I was fortunate enough to play for Ray Morrison, a legendary coach come up from the South, inventor of the aerial circus. Morrison coached at Temple. The war broke out. The Marine Corps sent me to Rochester University. Had the good fortune to play for Dudley S. DeGroot, who later coached the Washington Redskins. In our season there at Rochester, we were fortunate enough to beat Yale, Carnegie Tech, a couple other big teams. Jordan Oliver was my next coach at Villanova, who coached us to 2 bowl games, the Harbor Bowl against Nevada and the Great Lakes Bowl against Bear Bryant's Kentucky team. We lost 1, we won 1. Later on, I was fortunate enough to be drafted by the Chicago Cardinals. Unfortunate enough not to make the team, but finished my career playing with the Wilmington Redskins and a couple other semi-pro teams. I'd like to relate to you one story about an official, college official. His last name was White. Unfortunately, I can't remember his first name. He accused me of causing him to have indigestion for the rest of his life. He was the backline coach, official in the game that Villanova played against University of Miami, November 1st, 1946. Miami had a football player named Harry Gall. Harry Gall played with the Giants the year before. Miami at that time was a Wildcat school, and they used to hire ball players. Harry Gall was able to kick the football out of the end zone time after time, so his team would stop running down under the kickoffs. Jerry Neary, assistant coach at Villanova, scouted Miami, related the story to us, and told the halfbacks, if he kicks the ball into the end zone, run it out. That leads to my one bright, shining moment in my college football career. Harry kicked the ball, was ready to go out of the end zone. I remembered what the coach said, run it out. Getting back to the football official, he said to me, I had a mouth full of air, ready to blow the whistle, but you didn't step out of bounds. He said, I had to swallow that air, and it's still here 20 years later. I used to see him at banquets, and he would tell me that. I'd like to thank my players. Harold Kalinsky, who's here, I coached him at Lincoln High School. I also coached Bruce Drysdale and Pickles Kennedy, 2 great kids. I'd like to say thanks to Mage McDonald, teammate and classmate at Villanova, John Rogers, teammate and classmate at Temple. I was fortunate enough to play at Temple, Rochester, and Villanova because of the war situation. Jim Riley's here. I was glad to see him. Professional ball player that I played with. Gavin White, well-known high school coach that I had associated with many times. I want to thank everyone here for paying attention to what I had to say, and I wish to see you all again very soon. Good night, and thank you.
If I could just add that when Bob was telling his story, he didn't mention that on that kickoff return, he brought it back 100 yards for a touchdown. So 109 yards for a touchdown. All right. Well, I was asked to replace Don Tollefson when I arrived here, and in addition to being nervous, I looked down the list of gentlemen and ladies that I would introduce, and the next name came up. And it is with great pride and certainly is an honor to introduce the next man who has served to me as an idol, as a mentor, and as a friend. He is at the top of his game, and as the Philadelphia Eagles have gone through their highs and lows the last 22 years, Merrill Reese has always been at the very tip-top of his game and has provided countless hours of enjoyment for everyone who's turned on their radios on Sunday afternoons. So without further ado, please everyone welcome Merrill Reese.
Here you go, Merrill.
Thank you very much, Dave, and good evening, everyone. It is great to be here. I would like to thank everybody for the nomination to the Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame. It means so much to me. I'd like to congratulate all of our deserving honorees tonight, and I am really honored to be part of this evening. You know, it's funny sitting up here listening to everybody speak. I, by the way, have donated most of my 3 minutes to Tom DeFelice, and he used them. Just a few thank yous that I would like to offer, and also a quick career tale. Listening to Mike Pettin talk about starting at Pius X in Pottstown. My career also started in Pottstown at WPAZ. We used to call it Radio Pays, every place but Pottstown. And I had been through Temple. I had graduated from Temple, where Al Schreier gave me a tremendous boost, and had served as a naval officer at the Pentagon. And I began my broadcast career in Pottstown, and it was in Pottstown where I hosted the very popular Highland Garden of Memory show. They would play organ music, and I would read death notices. That's how it all began. And I said to myself, you know, they say that in your life, everything you do will come into play at some point. You will come back and help you. Little did I know at that time that would help me describe the last 7 games of the Rick Kotite era. But I do want to say how great it is to be before all of you tonight, to thank so many people. Thank the Eagles organization. We had a full table. While Tom spoke, they started dropping like flies. So Vicky Chatley and Derek Boyko are left, and we thank you for your endurance. But the Eagles organization has been great. I can tell you this, that in doing the games for 22 years, I have never once, and I mean this sincerely, I have never once been told by this organization, say this or don't say this. And heaven knows over the last couple of years, there have been reasons to be critical, and I have been critical, and nobody has ever said, if you feel something, don't say it. They want you to be honest, and they've allowed me to have my credibility. WYSP has given me 6 or 7 of the happiest broadcast years. The people there are absolutely wonderful to work with. Also, I've heard coaches and people tonight single out their wives, and I have to do that too. Because Cindy, would you stand up for a minute? Cindy is really my rock. She really is. And if you look at somebody who is successful in any field, a great deal has to do with their spouse. And Cindy is somebody who says to me every football season, and this is the truth, she says, don't worry about anything. You do what it takes to do your job. I'll handle the rest. And that is how it has been. She's been unbelievable. During the football season, she has truly been a single parent, and she has been absolutely great. And I can come back in the middle of the night from a losing road trip to Dallas. You remember the one where Tom Hutton fumbled the center snap, and Cindy, even though she had to get up the next morning to teach science at Keith Valley Middle School, she's a 6th grade science teacher, she would get up and talk things through and commiserate with me. So believe me, you don't survive in this career for 22 years with all of the insecurities involved with it without having a very, very special person behind me. I mean, she knows that during the football season, she'd rather me be on the road, because if it's a home game and I have a wee bit of a cold, it may be 2, 3 in the morning when she hears me get up going, testing, 1, 2, 3. She pats me on the back and I'm back to sleep. And lastly, just one other thank you. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart, and that is to all of you. Because this city, the Delaware Valley, has the greatest football fans in the entire NFL. I've been all over, and believe me, these people bleed Eagle Green. And when you talk about somebody having success, and based upon this honor, I know this is what you were saying about my career, it is because a lot of people like you and identify with you. And if I have a secret, it's because I am one of you. I bleed Eagle Green, and you can feel it each and every Sunday. Again, to all of you, my heart goes out. My greatest thank you forevermore, and I look forward to broadcasting the games for forever, really, and hopefully we'll have a very, very exciting season to all sink our teeth into. Again, congratulations to everybody else, and once again, thank you very, very much.
During the course of the evening, we've honored those who've played the game, those who've coached the game, those who've been around the game, and our next inductee is a man who played the game but is known, I guess, for the last many years as one who has officiated the games. John Schleier was a three-sport star at Lincoln High School. In 1990, was honored by Lincoln into their Hall of Achievement. He began his officiating career in the 1970s, and to this day still officiates in the National Football League. So without further ado, again, please welcome John Schleier.
It's growing late. I'm from the opposite end of the city that Tommy is. I will be succinct. First, I'd like to thank the All-Star Committee and the selection process for bringing me into the Philadelphia Hall of Fame Pennsylvania chapter. That's a mistake, but we know what I was trying to say. I am very, very appreciative of the honor this evening for the many friends, officials, and coaches that have come out to honor the people that are sitting at this table. There are many, many great coaches, ex-athletes, and people sitting here, and I am honored to be here. There's an irony that came about this evening. One of the people that was inducted, actually I worked my first football game with him. It was about 28 years ago. I was at Vogue Playground. I worked a 65-pound football game. I was paid $8 for it, and it was with Ernie Gallagher. And I thought the irony of this thing was that one of the philosophies that I have in officiating is to have fun. And Ernie Gallagher was the man that probably wrote the book about fun. And he told me, have fun, John. When it's fun no more, get out. Fortunately for me, to this day, it gets better and better, and it's even more fun. I also want to thank a fellow named Bob Ferber. Bob was an ex-coach at Martin Luther King High School in Philadelphia, and I happened to be working the 1989 championship game in the public league at Northeast High School field. And Bob was getting pounded handily in the second half, and he proceeded to tell me a comment that I heard from many, many other coaches: you'll never work another one of my games. Fortunately, there was a man named McNally who was sitting up in New York who happened to be an ex-public league coach. At this time, he was the he was the supervisor of NFL officials. McNally said there was an opening in his league for the following season, so if I wasn't going to work in the public league, would I mind coming to work for him? So for me, it happened to be a very positive stepping stone. I've been very fortunate to have been helped through my career by many men sitting in this room. I'd like to thank Ray Perry. I'd like to thank Vince Presto. I'd like to thank Jim Riley. I'd like to thank Ronnie Halley, who was played a big impact in helping me in the public league, and Jim Carney for giving me my start in the Catholic League. My friends, they know who they are, they have been lifelong friends. And for me, that's one of the most important aspects of sports, the friendships and the relationships you develop. And to this day, my oldest and dearest friends are my fellows from officiating in sports. So to them, I thank you, and I appreciate you being here tonight, too. I had one story that I wanted to relate to you, that my first year in the NFL, I was working a preseason game. And when we were in college, the games were about 2 hours and 30 minutes. The professional games are normally about 3 hours. We happened to be down in Atlanta. It was 105 degrees. It was an evening game, started at about 7:30. We had 32 fouls in the game. The game was 3 hours and 48 minutes long. With a minute to go in the game, Jerry Glanville said to me, John, I just got to tell you. He said, the only guy that's worse than you guys out there tonight is my defensive coordinator, because we haven't been able to stop anything. So Jerry was a great person to work for. My philosophy, and I heard a young man talk about this at a meeting about 2 months ago. He was being honored, and he got up and he said something, and it struck me. And he said, what you should do is you should lie, you should cheat, and you should steal. And I looked and I said, what's this kid going to say? And he said, well, he says, I lie in bed every night and I thank God for what I was given. He says, and I cheat. He says that when my coach tells me to do 10 push-ups. He says, I'll do 12. He says, so what I thought to myself is, I go to one meeting when I was coming through the officiating ranks. I read the rule book for an hour, do it for an hour and a half. So I'll cheat that and I'll do a little bit better. The last thing he said was steal. He said, so lie, cheat, and steal. He said, steal as much knowledge as you can from the people that are around you. And Philadelphia is a hotbed for officials. We have the greatest collegiate chapter in the area. We have one of the greatest high school groups in the area and in the country by that matter. And I've had the opportunity to learn from the best. Many great officials in this city, and so I'm very thankful for that. So I'll continue to lie, cheat, and steal. My biggest supporters, and I'll save that, and my three greatest possessions of my life are my three sons. And they happen to be here tonight, Jeff, Brad, and Chris. And they, to me, are what it's all about. But I'll save the best for last. For 25 years, and I've been dating my wife since I was a senior in high school. When I started to officiate 30 years ago, I used to go see her after basketball games on a Friday night in my sweaty referee uniform. On weekends when we were growing up, going out, I'd work a public league game on Thursday, something on Friday night, a game on Saturday, and a Catholic league game on Sunday. And she just about never saw me. To this day, we will be married 25 years next month. The cornerstone of my life, the person that keeps our household together and the foundation of our whole being is my wife Joyce, and I'd just like to thank her for being there. I love you. To everyone this evening, I know it's getting late. I appreciate this honor and I'm humbled by it, and I thank you very much.
Yes.
We close the induction portion of the evening with an exclamation point. Dorothy Walton attended Lincoln High School and then later Temple University. And then for 41 and a half years, think about that, for 41 and a half years, she was a teacher and coach of health and physical education in the city of Philadelphia. She definitely made her mark with thousands and thousands of children who were all the better for meeting her. She coached varsity field hockey for 35 years at George Washington High School, and they won 11 public league championships. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dorothy Walton.
You'll all be happy to know that speaking is not one of my favorite things. But I just have a few profound statements to make, and I know you're all tired, and so just bear with me for a few minutes. When I began my teaching career in Philadelphia in 1958, you may want to write this down, gasoline was 30 cents a gallon. A gallon of milk was $1.02. The typical home cost $12,000, and the cost for a new car was $2,000. But sadly enough, there were no organized public league championships for girls in Philadelphia. Through the efforts of two of my good friends, Barbara Thumler and Carol Wacker, who convinced the powers to be that our girls could play without being harmed physically and emotionally, we started our public league championship in the spring of 1969. It was our first public league game. It was a softball game. It was against Northeast. Barbara was the coach. I was the coach at Washington. Now, being the good friend that I am, I let her win that game. Only kidding, Barbara. But it was the beginning of public league championships for girls in Philadelphia. We've come a long way since 1958. More opportunities, athletic scholarships, professional careers. Those of us that experienced last weekend's NCAA playoff weekend were thrilled at the progress and how far we've come in women's sports. To thank everyone who has made my rewarding and memorable experience as possible in teaching and coaching career that spans 41 and a half years would take me a millennium. But I would be remiss if I just didn't acknowledge a few. First and most important, the men and women that I taught and coached over the years, and I thank some of my former players for coming tonight. Aggie Stegmuller. Is there anyone in the world that doesn't know Aggie Stegmuller? I've never met anyone. Never met anyone. It was through Aggie's planning and financial support, I must say, that our girls had 4 international trips during my career. London, Holland, and twice to Bermuda. And without Aggie, none of it would have been possible. And so we're deeply indebted to you, Aggie, for all you do for the girls at Washington High School. I thank you very much. Is it 10 o'clock? Oh, yes, okay. To my Washington family and friends who have been most supportive over these last 35 years at Washington and sat tonight for 4.5 hours to listen to my speech, I am grateful to you. Barbara Thumler, who was our former supervisor of health and physical education and athletics, and currently is now our athletic director at Washington High School. I must add, a move of her own choosing, and Washington has been the better place for her transfer. And we have 3 more lines. Linda McGee, our program manager, for giving me the opportunity to be chairperson of Softball League for the last 5 years. And Carol Griffin, my assistant for over 30 years on and off the field. I am most appreciative. And last but not least, thank you, committee, for this wonderful honor.
It's finally coming to a close. Thank God. I want to thank this gentleman right here. I had to turn to him, and I've done it before, and thanks. Appreciate it. We're going to do some rapid fire here with 7 of these rapid fires. 7, Bob?
11. I think it's the games, Eagles, Phillies, stuff like that. Give them away.
All right, here we go. 1, 4, 5. I hope you join the Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame as a member. Thank you, God bless you, and have a safe trip home.